Hey guys, I know, it's dark, it's creepy, I'm here, and we'll get into the video in just a second, but I know some of you have been curious about Cher's murder and the murder and all of that, and don't worry, Detective Finder is still working very, very hard on the case, but since we're covering the Animist, it gave me an idea. What if I tried to channel Cher's spirit? He could tell us directly who did it, so that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Ade Due Dambala, give me the power, I beg of you. It's you. You're really here. I didn't think this would work. That's incredible. Okay, Cher, who did it? Who killed you? Oh my gosh, chairs can't talk. Well, it seems my own channeling efforts bore no fruit, but that doesn't mean you can't have some success with the Animist class in Pathfinder 2e. And if you're asking yourself, why is he so quiet and calm and deep-voiced? Well, it's partially because it's 9 a.m., and also because I thought it would be interesting and useful to some extent to record this guide specifically, slowly, methodically, and more detailed. Which makes it even more ironic that this is the first video I messed up so badly in I had to take it down entirely and fix. Howdy, this is Nonat over a week in the future from originally recording this video, and I got something so wrong about the Animist class from a fundamental level that I did need to take this entire video down, ruin my streak of Nonat November, because I would rather give you something that's not 90% incorrect, rather than just throw it up for the sake of keeping a video streak. Also, Squid's here. Hi, Squid. Luckily, all 5 of my tips do still apply to the Animist class, just not in the way I originally thought, and especially not in the way I explained them. I'll be re-explaining and jumping back in a few times throughout the video to correct things or just completely replace certain takes that were so wrong, but I want to open this video by explaining the thing that tripped me up the most, because multiple people asked on my community post to tell you what I got wrong because they fear they might have gotten it wrong as well, and I don't blame you. So I'm going to put it right up here up front. I believed that when you, the Animist, had a primary apparition, those were the only apparition spells you could cast. Remember, the Animist gets apparition spells and divine spells. I thought their apparition spell slots could only be used to cast the spells of their primary attuned apparition, but that's not the case. You have access to all of the spells given to you by all of your attuned apparitions, which at level 1 is 2 different apparitions. And this is incredibly important because this means the circle of spirits' feet that I talk about so harshly in this video isn't quite as required as I originally thought. I do still think the feat is by and large the best level 1 Animist feat, no contest, because it gives you access to a different focus spell when you attune to your other apparition, and taking 1 action to do that instead of 10 minutes is still incredible. I'll talk about that in the video, but I was under the impression that when you swapped apparitions, you also gained an entirely different spell list. That is not the case. You can cast any spells provided by any of your currently attuned apparitions, which means at very high levels when the Animist has 4 apparitions, that means they can cast any of the spells granted by any of those 4, regardless of which one is currently their primary. All primary does is give you access to the focus spell and access to that spirit's lore proficiencies, and then at very, very high levels, access to that apparition's avatar form. So that's it. I might jump in once or twice throughout the rest of the video, or I'll just pop some text on screen. This might be one you need to watch visibly more than hearing it, but I'll do what I can. Thank you for understanding, and yeah, I'm just trying to keep integrity in the content. I know I get a few things wrong here and there. If it's small, I'll usually add a pinned comment to fix it, but this was big enough that I needed to go back to DaVinci and start editing things again. And that's not like a pretentious way to describe my editing style. I'm not Leonardo. This software is called DaVinci. Anyway, enjoy the apparition. I'm going back to bed. Also, I got sick. But first, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to all the members of the Nonat One's Patreon. All of these people on this list make this channel possible, and I appreciate all of you more than you can know. If you'd like to get your name on that list, there's a link in the description where you can pledge $1, $5, $10, or $20 a month. They all do the exact same thing, they just support me a little bit more. Thank you for considering it. So, my first tip for the Animist class, you might be thinking it's something about the apparition, something about subclass or feat selection, but no, my first tip isn't technically about the class at all, and it's why I'm delivering this video the way it is. My first tip is simple. The Animist is the most complicated class in Pathfinder 2E. If you are going to play the Animist, you need to understand the Animist more than just getting it at a base spellcasting level. The Animist has access to 11 different apparitions, 13 if you're using expanded content from one of the new adventures, and each of these apparitions, along with having its own spell list, also has its own unique focus spell and its own unique lore proficiencies that all change every time you attune to a new primary apparition. And you can couple that with the fact that the Animist is the only class in the game to have 3 different kinds of spell casting all baked into the core class. You have your normal divine spell list Animist spell slots, which are different from your apparition spell slots, and then you have your focus spells, which yes, they function just like the focus spells of all the other classes, except once again, change depending on your currently attuned primary apparition. This means they have 3 different spell resources they need to keep track of. Their divine spell slots, which can only be used to cast the spells they prepared that day, the apparition spell slots, and your focus points, which can only be used to cast the currently attuned apparition's focus spell. This just puts the Animist on a whole other level of complexity compared to something like a cleric. It might not sound like a lot to throw a second type of spellcasting on top. You know, a lot of classes already have spell slots and focus spells, but having a separate spell list with separate spell slots you are spending on different sources of spells, it's a lot, especially if you're a newer player, because if you run out of Animist spell slots, you can't cast anything from your divine prepared spell list. You are only able to cast your apparitions spells. I'm starting to repeat myself, but this is just worth hammering home. The Animist is the most complicated spellcaster, if not the most complicated class in all of Pathfinder 2e. Alright, now let's simplify things with a second tip that's a lot more useful. Think about the day ahead. As the Animist, you are able to swap to any 2 apparitions from the list every single morning. So if you know what kind of adventures you're going to be getting into, you can plan accordingly. Are you going to be doing a lot of talking and role-playing? Maybe take something like Echo or Monarch, and if you're going to be doing a lot of combat that day, try to figure out if you need AoE or single target. If you need area of effect abilities, use the Steward, or if you need more single target damage, use the Stalker. Even the Reveler can let you have more control over the battlefield. If you know what you're getting into, you can have the best apparition attuned for that day. In that way, the Animist is almost like the Alchemist of spellcasting. The Alchemist on its own is very middle power, but if you know what you're getting into, it's a lot more useful than usual. Same with the Animist. If you have the spells at the ready for the combat you're going into, you're amazing. Again, you're a divine caster, but with Steward equipped, you can cast Fireball. Most clerics can't cast Fireball, and you can do this without an archetype, without any kind of fancy feat selection or anything. Just by attuning the correct apparition, you have access to spells that are not on the divine spell list, and this means the Animist can be one of the most flexible casters in the game if you know what you're going up against. Alright, it's been a while since I've given a tip that I just outright dislike, but I feel like this needs to be said. Tip number 3 is that if you are playing an Animist, you need Circle of Spirits. Simple as that. Only one Animist subclass gets Circle of Spirits for free, and if you're not that subclass, you want to take it as your 2nd level feat, or just play a human, get Natural Ambition, and get Circle of Spirits at level 1. This feat is absolutely incredible compared to everything else offered to the Animist at low levels, to the point where I think it should have just been part of their base kit. By default, it takes 10 minutes to switch from your currently attuned primary apparition to the 2nd apparition you prepared that day. If you have the Circle of Spirits feat, it is 1 action once per round. And this only gets stronger and stronger and stronger at higher levels, because as the Animist grows in player level, they can get a 3rd apparition per day and a 4th apparition per day, and by default, it takes you 10 minutes to swap from one apparition to another. Oh, and by the way, on top of just all of that benefit, it also gives you a bonus focus point, which means that the subclass that gets Circle of Spirits at level 1 starts the game with 2 focus points, while every single other Animist only gets 1 until they take this feat, which they should, because it's too strong. Things like Apparition Sense and the other level 1 feats are fine, and the medium gets something similar as a class feature at higher levels, but especially for levels like 1 to 8, you need Circle of Spirits. I hate saying that. I hate saying this class needs this feat, and when I do say that, that's why I think it should have just been part of their base kit. Remove the bonus focus point and just make swapping an apparition one action in the base kit. Don't make it take 10 minutes by default, just make it one action. Cool, all set. Give the subclass that gets Circle of Spirits a different feat, but rules as written, if you're an Animist, you want Circle of Spirits. That's the tip. Number 4 is a tip that I think a lot of people might not think about, especially if they get overly comfortable with their 2, 3, or 4 apparitions that they tend to vibe with. And that's that at every odd level, every time you unlock a new spell rank as an Animist, go back and reevaluate every single apparition. This is because there are some apparitions who might be really, really bad early on, crafter, but at higher character levels, they might unlock a spell that is worth its weight in gold for you to bring them along for the day, such as the crafter at rank 5, that's character level 9, getting Impaling Spike. That is a great spell, and before that spell, crafter's not super useful in a lot of encounters, but once you unlock that spell, especially depending on what you're going to be fighting, it might be worth attuning to the crafter just to have access to that as a 5th rank spell. So that's a simple, super quick, easy tip. Every time you get a new spell rank, go back through, check all the apparitions. This class is a lot of reading, it's a lot of research, but it's always worth it because the apparitions are not stuck to the divine spell list. So whenever you level up, you never know, unless you researched ahead of time, what kind of spell your apparitions are going to unlock. It might be arcane, it might be occult, it might be primal. That's why the Animist is so flexible. You're constantly gaining access to new spells that no other divine caster can use. And my final tip for the Animist class is not to use your divine Animist spell slots to do the same thing as your apparition spell slots. Instead, you should be using your prepared spells to complement the spells that your apparitions can't change. You took Stalker and Steward for a bunch of damaging spells from your apparition slots? Cool. Use your prepared slots for things like Bless or Heal or other support abilities. You've already got damage covered. You don't need every single spell slot dedicated to dealing damage. And vice versa. If you took Reveler for some kind of battlefield control or some kind of support apparition, then you can use your divine spell slots to take different damaging abilities. That way you always have options. This is another way the Animist is super flexible. It's an incredibly flexible spellcaster if you know what you're doing. You can have offense, defense, and support spells all prepared at the exact same time on the same caster, and that is worth its weight in gold. I used the metaphor again. Is that a metaphor? Simile? Analogy? So that's all there is to it. If your apparitions are giving you damaging spells, take support spells. If your apparitions are giving you support spells, take damaging spells like Concordant Choir or Admonishing Ray. You can have access to so much to allow you to do so many different things based on the situation and how certain encounters evolve. Nobody took damage during the first round of combat because you got lucky? Cool. Use one of your spell slots to deal some damage or control the battlefield, and then wait until you actually need to cast your heal spell. You don't have to prepare everything to be a healer, otherwise you might wind up having nothing to do. Or the opposite might happen. If you prepare everything to be a blaster caster and someone takes a huge chunk of damage, but you don't have any heal spells prepared, you're also SOL. And there you go. My 5 tips on how to play the Animist class, delivered slowly, methodically. That's that little tinge of no-nat chaos in there, but I wanted to talk clearly in this video because I do think the Animist is so difficult to play and understand on a truly fundamental level. Once you know everything the Animist can do, it can be really overwhelming. I have friends who struggle to understand basic spellcasters because they're difficult, having to prepare specific things. I didn't even talk about the fact that the Animist is both prepared and spontaneous. Your basic spell slots are prepared, your apparition spell slots are all spontaneous, which function differently. It's it's a lot, but I hope I helped you understand the class a little bit better, and if you're out there playing one, feel free to give some advice in the comments for people that you think they should know before they play an Animist. I want to give another huge shout out to all the members of the No Net One's Patreon page. Thank you to all of you. Link in the description if you also want to support the channel. That's all from me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, No Nat 1.